Broadcasting live from deep within the bowels of the Alaska Association of Realtors headquarters, which is actually kind of funny if you know who our tenant is on Minnesota. I'm Chris Story, and this is Alaska Real Estate. Brought to you by the fine folks at Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, your partner in real estate. Online at ahfc.us and from anywhere in Alaska, 1-800-478-AHFC. Committed to efficient, effective, and affordable housing for all Alaskans. As we enter the spring of Alaska, may this also be the springtime of your life. Remember what Catherine Ponder said. She's one of my favorite authors. I've been broke, she said, but never poor. Being broke is a temporary situation. Being poor is a state of mind. A while back, you may recall you heard from Matthew Ferry. He's been on Alaska Real Estate numerous times, and as we approach the springtime of our state and our lives, I thought, what better way to start off the month of May than with a half hour of uninterrupted inspiration from Matthew Ferry. This comes your way courtesy of Alaska USA Mortgage Company, a name you know and people you trust, online at alaskausamortgage.com. And your friends at Alaska USA Title Agency, who are committed to excellence all around Alaska. They're online at alaskauSAtitle.com. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride with Matthew Ferry. I really enjoyed your article, Happiness is a Skill Worth Developing, and you outlined 4 skills. And number 1, right off the bat, give up being right. And you wrote, most people are addicted to being right, and they don't even know it. This leads to endless amounts of argument and strife. To be happy, you must let go of this ineffective habit of thought. And my question, Matthew, is what about being principled? How does this thought of giving up on being right square with being a decisive person?
Well, I think we have some distinctions here. So a principle is a line that you have personally drawn in the sand. It, in some ways, is very effective. So let's, for example, take a principle that is going to support me in having a great life is I work out every day at 6 a.m. A principle that is going to cause endless argument and strife is an opinion that I have about how the rest of the world should behave and act. And most people are actually blending together their opinions and their line in the sand principles, right? Here's a principle that I live by. I live by a principle that says, if I will meditate or pray every day, if I will eat effectively, if I will do my exercise, and if I will get enough sleep, I will feel good. That's a principle I have. Or a principle that I have is feeling good is my highest goal. That's a principle or a line in the sand that I've drawn. So those things are about me and my own personal experience. Where people get really, really off track, especially real estate agents, is that they spend their time trying to hold other people accountable to agreements that they never made. And they argue about things that really, in the end, are of no value to themselves or anyone. Arguing about politics, for example, though it is a public pastime, it only leads to tremendous amounts of anger and strife, and those kinds of feelings have been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, proven to make you ineffective as a human being in almost every way. So children, for example, who were stimulated into a happy state, this is a Harvard research study that occurred. They were studying happiness. Children that were stimulated into a happy state were solving problems 50% faster than children that were neutral or negative. Doctors who were stimulated into a happy state, they could diagnose patients 19% faster. Salespeople who were stimulated into a happy state were able to make 37% more sales. So being happy is one of the most practical and effective things you could possibly do. And holding on to an opinion about how things should be, how people should be, is not going to cause you to be happy. In fact, it's going to cause you to go into conflict.
What a great distinction between opinion and principles, between my perspective and my worldview, or forcing my worldview on you.
Correct. And the world is in a great habit of making themselves feel terrible by trying to be right.
Right.
And it's highly recommended to let it go.
Awesome. All right, number 2, accept the situation. This is the second skill to be happy. Accept the situation as it is and then take action. And under this principle or under this skill you've got, if you don't accept the situation as it is, you become frustrated and unhappy, which makes you feel stuck and you can't move forward. You literally get blinded to all of your available options. But my question, I guess, then would be naturally, what if I'm in a bad situation or a real low energy state? You're not suggesting I just accept that.
I'm saying that acceptance is not passivity. So most people think that acceptance is being passive or submitting, and I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting that acceptance is a state of non-resistance. So let's say there is a group of people who are having violent behavior that are near me, or maybe I'm in that group. I don't agree with violent behavior. As a principle, I am committed to feeling good, and violent behavior is a negative feeling or bad feeling state. So I don't get mad at them. That would be joining them. I don't disagree with them. That would be joining them also. Violent behavior is nothing more than a very, very intense version of disagreement. I accept, I appreciate, and I understand where they're coming from. And then I'm able to move forward rapidly to what it is that I want. In other words, I align and redirect. What most people do is they resist, and what you resist will persist. So if you resist behavior that you don't want, it will continue. If you understand and accept behavior that you don't want, it will transform before your eyes. What you resist will persist. What you accept will transform. So acceptance doesn't mean that you agree with it. It means that you seek to understand the perspective of the other person, and you accept that from their point of view, it's the right thing to do. In that moment, you go out of your negative state and you go into you're able to suddenly relax. As soon as you're able to relax, you get resourceful, you get creative, you get effective, you become more charming, you become more charismatic. All of your resources, all of your faculties are enhanced when you are in a relaxed, focused state. So if you are resisting, you are putting yourself into a place where you are personally compromised.
The second facet of skill number 2 is then taking action. So once we're in that other state, we can then more easily or effectively take action.
Yeah, in other words, I'm not going to take action very effectively when I'm pissed off that the situation is the way it is. I think in the article that you're referring to, I'm talking about a real estate agent client of mine who is his company is merging with another company.
Right.
And his office is closing, and they're going to go move to the other office. And he's going to lose his coveted office with a view that has sunshine coming in and goes out into the trees. And he's been there for so long, he's so comfortable with it, and he's mad, and he's upset, and he's furious. And he calls me, and he's like, I can't, I'm in breakdown, nothing's happening, I'm not doing any deals, I don't know what's going on. Well, tell me what's going on in your life. And he tells me the situation. I said, well, you're resisting the fact that you're moving. And he goes, I know, but I'm mad, I'm trying, I don't want to, and I'm so, and I'm protesting, and I'm like, how's that going? And he's like, well, we're moving, so it isn't doing anything. Exactly. So we had to first work to accept the situation exactly as it was. So as soon as he accepted, I'm moving, period. End of story. There's nothing I'm going to do about it. As soon as he accepted it, and I had him stand in his office, and I had him thank his office for being in his life for the last 10 years and really appreciate it and honor all the incredible times that he's had there in his office, as soon as he was fully able to appreciate, honor, and accept it, then he was ready to take effective action. Now, suddenly, he went and had a normal conversation, not a I'm a 2-year-old screaming and yelling and banging and trying to get what I want conversation. He started to have a normal conversation with his broker, and guess what? He ended up creating a perfect solution in the new office, and next thing you know, his production returned, and he started doing deals again.
Wow. I like that. I like number 2. I've circled it. Accept the situation as it is, and then take action. That's great. Moving on to skill number 3. Unless you work for the Psychic Friends Network, this one can be easily applicable, I guess. Quit pretending you're a psychic who can tell the future.
Exactly. So let's take our realtor friend whose company was merging. The bottom line was his mind was filling him full of images that filled him full of dread. I'm not going to have the sunshine anymore, and I'm going to be in a cubicle, and I'm going to... Right? He was basically fantasizing about what the situation was going to be. And if you tune into the mind, which I find the drunk monkey, what you discover is that the mind literally believes that it's psychic. The mind literally believes, it thinks that it can tell the future. And it can't. And yet, another Harvard study done where you had 2,200 people on an iPhone app log their mood, their mood, what their thoughts were, and what they were experiencing in that moment. And they did that for 6 months straight. They logged over 200,000 status updates. And the researchers, the Harvard researchers, were shocked. They were shocked to discover that when the mind is idle, when the mind is, if you just let the mind wander, it defaults to negativity.
Interesting.
It defaults to negativity.
Yeah.
So if you just let your mind do the thinking for you, and you let your mind visualize what the future is going to be, it will visualize negative things that will scare you. That energy, that fear, is going to automatically then have you take ineffective action. And that is proven by the other Harvard study that we talked about earlier. If you go into a negative state, your results will be less than if you're in a positive state. Period. End of story.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that's something to do with the survival mechanism in our minds? And why would we default to negativity, in your opinion?
The mind, which I like to call the drunk monkey, I like to call the mind the drunk monkey. The mind and the drunk monkey are really nothing more than survival mechanisms. So the mind's job is to keep you alive longer. It's kind of the CIA for the body. So the Central Intelligence Agency is looking for intelligence that are potential threats. And that's the mind's job, too. If you tune into the mind, you'll see that basically it is focused on what's going to go wrong, what might happen, what do I need to do differently, how can I avoid that. It's in a perpetual state of looking for what might go wrong and avoiding it.
And I guess the flip side is that we have the ability to control it and do planning, goal setting, and looking into a positive future. But you've got to be consciously aware of that, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, and I get objections from people on a regular basis. Well, you're talking about the lower mind, and it's true. I'm talking about the lower mind. I'm talking about that mind, that reptilian brain of ours. In India they call it the monkey mind. I call mine the drunk monkey because it's a little more obnoxious than most people's. But the bottom line is that you do have a higher mind, but most people don't spend much time engaging it. And so they let the mind pretend that it's psychic and pretend that it can tell the future. They're entertained by their mind. They let the mind do the thinking, and that's not a very effective way to operate.
Well, do you have an exercise or sort of a go-to real quick a pattern we could run or something to when we catch ourselves in that lower mind or we catch ourselves defaulting to the negative that we could just immediately get out of it?
I like to immediately go to something called the 10-10 visualization. So I just instantaneously will look at 10 things in my life that are good, that are working, and then 10 goals and dreams that I want to accomplish. Just visualize it.
I like that. Okay, nice. Sorry about that. I just had to mute. Somebody decided now would be the perfect time to empty a trash can with a hammer in my office. All right, number 4, Matthew. Stop protecting yourself from people who aren't attacking you. There's a rumor going around that I'm paranoid. Who told you? What is this? What does that mean? Stop protecting yourself from people who are not attacking you.
Well, I give the example of a Wall Street client that I'm working with who, when we began, was pretty sure that he was low man on the totem pole when, in fact, in his organization, he was in charge of $17 billion.
That's a lot of money.
Obviously, he's not low man on the totem pole.
Right, that's a lot of trust.
That's a lot of trust that was put in his hands. And yet he experienced, no one listens to me, no one cares what I think, no one wants to know what I'm doing, I don't really matter, is really what he thought. And with further investigation, I realized, or, we saw that a couple of years back he had an experience where he felt rejected. He had put forth some ideas, and, people were like, no, they rejected him, at least in his words. And then he has spent literally the last 2 years protecting himself from future rejections. In other words, what he's doing now is he's trying to avoid having that situation repeat again. Now, the problem is no one even remembers. No one even knows what he would be. I mean, if he brought it up now, no one would even know what he was even talking about.
Right. Oh, boy, I've been there. I've definitely been there.
His mind is protecting himself against all these people who aren't attacking him. So what I asked him to do instead was I asked him to take on something that I call giving the gift. And giving the gift is going out of a protective mode and going into a contributive mode. I asked him to, for 1 week, do an experiment, to just begin to see what are people up to in the company right now, to really check in with everyone that he is interacting with. What are they committed to? What are they doing right now? What are they trying to accomplish? What are the big objectives? Where are they feeling stuck? Where do they feel like they're not getting enough value from the company? What are some of the problems or issues that they're faced with? I just had him get really, really curious with people, and for no other reason than to look for ways that he might contribute, support, uplift, engage, be a part of, do something kind for somebody. And that's really what giving the gift is. It is stopping your world for a moment, getting into somebody else's world, and seeing, is there a way in which you can bring some relief, you can contribute, support, uplift, empower. What that will do is that will put you into an incredible, incredible state. We feel best when we are contributing. So suddenly, he was feeling amazing. On top of that, he discovered that people in the company really needed him a lot, and that he had a tremendous amount of expertise that he could be bringing to all kinds of people. So he just started doing that. He started bringing expertise to all kinds of people in the company, and next thing you know, 6 months later, he is one of the most important guys in the entire company. In other words, we know that, it was indicated by, everyone would say, oh, what does he think? Have you gone to him? Right, I can't mention his name, but what does he think? Have you roped him in on this conversation? And he was a part of everything. A year later, he was recruited away by someone else who was starting their own business and made a partner in the firm. And this was a dream that he had set for himself that was a 5-year dream. It happened in one. And it was all because he stopped protecting himself and he started contributing and making a difference for all the people around him.
And really an interesting distinction there is that it isn't just monetarily giving, but giving of oneself, one's time, etc.
And resources, and you don't want to put yourself out. So giving should never be something that actually harms you. Your giving and contributing should always be something that is that you enjoy and you appreciate giving. So it might just be that you're introducing them to someone, or it might be that you know some information that they can utilize, or maybe there's some resource you have that you could give to them, and you don't need it, but it would make a big difference for them.
In a lot of ways, you could retitle this possibly "Protect Yourself from Yourself."
Yes, exactly. The point is, no one is attacking. People are just doing the best they can in their life. They're out there trying to accomplish their own goals and dreams, and if you knew how little people actually thought of you, it would absolutely freak you out.
I like in the summary of your article, you talk about if you wait for happiness to find you, you'll be waiting a long time. And I guess, in summary, I would just ask, are you happy? Have you found happiness?
The answer is unequivocally yes. And it's been a long, long, long time coming. I would say that I always had a propensity towards happiness, but I never knew how to control it. I never knew how to keep the frustration and the anxiety and the agitation and the misery. I never knew how to keep those at bay and transform them. And once I learned those skills, by giving up being right, by stop protecting myself, by accepting the situation as it is, by quit pretending that I was a psychic. Once I learned the skills, suddenly I could be happy the majority of my time. Now, to say that I'm happy 100% of the time would be inaccurate, and I don't believe that you want to be happy 100% of the time, because you need those contrasting and opposing elements to know what happiness is. So you need those times of frustration in order to know what happiness is. The question is, are you 80% happy and 20% frustrated, or are you 80% frustrated and 20% happy, which is where I find most people.
Interesting. It's very zen. Without any down, there's no up. I like that. Well, if selling is a transference of a feeling, as Zig Ziglar so often said, I guess why not spread happiness? Is your point? I mean, if we're transferring a feeling anyway to those that are in our direct contact, why not spread happiness?
Well, in today's particular economy and the state of affairs for most homeowners, to be a person who has optimism
it's
is
tough.
Extremely attractive. To be a person who is caught up in the doomsday mindset of the marketplace is extremely repelling. And so it's good for you, it's good for them. They're not going to get what they want. The homeowners are not going to get what they want. But it doesn't have to be a miserable experience because you are constantly engaging their fear.
You talked about politics earlier, the art of the endless discussions. Can you address the fear cycle that we're in at the moment and will likely be in for the next year and a half relative to the political landscape 2012 is approaching and our national debt and on and on and on?
Well, you have to remember that politics is about being elected, and being elected is about swaying public opinion. And the most effective way to sway public opinion is to discover a problem and amplify it. And the reason that you do that is that the mind's propensity, its default, is to find problems and to avoid them. So if you can get people to collectively acknowledge a problem, and then you can propose that you are the savior of that problem, then you can get votes. So the reason that I generally stay out of politics is typically we're not talking about anything that is of actual truth. And I'm going to say truth as in a percentage of truth. So there's an element of truth in what most politicians say, but most of the time you'd have to be a very, very sophisticated business person or economist to truly understand the depth of the problems. And I certainly don't propose to have those skills.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in understanding them, but I'm also humble enough to admit that I have a long way to go before I would understand them. And I imagine that even the people who are in the middle of it are constantly perplexed as to the complexity and the intensity of what it's going to take to turn the tides in a positive direction again for our country. So in that regard, I typically don't get engaged in conversations because I'm crystal clear that I don't know, and I'm just as clear that the people who are talking to me, this doctor, for example, who has a skill set in the realm of physiology, is not likely someone who has a skill set in the realm of economics.
That's right. No doubt.
And therefore, neither of our opinions are really all that valid.
And you've given up on being right relative to politics. You've accepted the situation. You've quit pretending you're going to know what's happening with the future election, and you're protecting yourself from people who aren't attacking you.
I'm letting all that go, and and I'm not trying to be ignorant or foolish about it. So I'm still going to cast my vote, and I'm going to cast my vote in a way that feels good to me. And then I'm going to let go of the outcome. So I'm not going to attach myself to the outcome. In other words, if the person that I'm voting for or the bill that I'm voting for does not go through, I'm not going to then have some temper tantrum about it, because I'm then simply putting myself into an ineffective state. What the world needs right now is people feeling good, taking positive, powerful action towards the accomplishment of their own personal goals. And when the world has a movement towards that, we will see a resurgence of our economy again. Until that time, we will be in a state of dysfunction as we're focusing on all kinds of things that make us feel like crap.
Wow. Well,
put us in a ineffective state.
Well said. I like it. And really, I think, and I'm not pandering, but I honestly believe you're doing your part towards that movement. And I think if folks visit you at MatthewFerry.com, and remember there's 2 T's in Matthew, MatthewFerry.com, really I have been impressed with your video conferencing and your video presentations, that your live broadcasts you're doing online. Talk about that for a minute and how folks can get involved.
One of the things that I like to do is help people to experience happiness and success right off the bat. And I've got a free email course on 7 steps to happiness and success right on the front page of my site, MatthewFerry.com, which is MatthewFerry.com. And once they have signed up for the 7 steps, then I'll also notify them periodically. Once a month, I like to do a live video broadcast where I'll take one particular topic. So I just did a topic called Kickstart the Second Half of Your Year, and I gave you 4 things that I think are going to make sure that the second half of the year is really, really effective for you. Next month, I'm doing, next month I'm doing that same one again for people. So we had about 700 people sign up for that, and we're going to do it again. And then the month after that, I'm going to be talking about 7 mistakes that I made using the law of attraction and ways in which I literally screwed myself over using the law of attraction. And it's sort of a little warning bell, like don't be doing these things because this will make sure that you're not effective. And then I'm going to talk about selling from the heart coming up towards the end of the year, and I'm going to talk about making 2012 your best year ever at the end of this year.
Awesome. And all that's available at MatthewFerry.com. Sort of reminds me, you were talking about the screwing up on using the law of attraction. It reminds me of Costanza. And if only life were so simple as where you could just do the opposite of all of your instincts and succeed, as Costanza did.
Yep, exactly. That would be fantastic. But we have to understand that there are some basic things that are working in our favor or against us. And once we understand those things, then we can use them to our advantage.
Awesome. Great information. Thank you, Matthew Ferry.
Thank you, sir.
That's it for this edition of Alaska Real Estate. A big thanks to our sponsors for making this podcast possible: AHFC, Alaska USA Mortgage Company, and Alaska USA Title Agency. Our executive producer is Sandy Ehrenman. For all of us at Alaska Real Estate, I'm Chris Story, wishing you health, wealth, and prosperity.